Good morning. I'm Sonia from the IED, and I had the absolute pleasure of moderating a rather challenging session. The role of joint evaluations as a tool for boosting development effectiveness at country systems, post-pandemic context, and the case studies of joint evaluations in Bahrain, one from a global evaluation facility and the other from a project in Nepal. A couple of issues that the panel participants converged on: a joint evaluation approach paper that was a good practice that was followed everywhere through all the joint evaluations, which discussed priorities, optimize the timelines, which were the methodologies, and convergence on methodologies and approaches between the donors. Focus on not to contest but to leverage, not to attribute, no attribution but contribution. A lot of focus on triangulation. It is clearly a value addition from the perspective of force multipliers. Team building takes time, but navigating organizational mandates brings teams together. And of course, the evaluation approach paper looks at different timelines as well as different audiences and priorities. So all of those can be brought together and addressed, and to make the implementation of the evaluation as smooth as possible. The challenge from a government perspective is that they are the source of data, but they are also the source of information. And here there's a bunch of donors converging to, from that one data source, which requires some donor coordination, both from the government side as well as from the donor side. So that was a challenge that was overcome by ironing out this approach at the very beginning of the evaluation stage. Last words of wisdom: the voice of the beneficiaries and various stakeholders is very, very important. Joint evaluation is not a silver bullet. It can be useful, build on synergies, and ideal for addressing challenges. We are all in the business of helping people and the planet. Catering to a particular audience and cascading to various stakeholders on the ground is a challenge that, if we put our attribution aside and look at leveraging and contribution, we can bring together and more support to country systems rather than following only the donor's mandate.
So this is Mark Sundberg. I'm with the Millennium Challenge Corporation, and just moderated a session about accountability and resilience and how to motivate the use of knowledge from evaluation. It was a very rich discussion about how to use evaluation knowledge and how to use knowledge products in two distinct ways. One is within the multilateral development banks or bilaterals. How is knowledge management utilized and incentivized to be utilized by institutions? On the second part of the panel, it also addressed the question of evaluation use by policymakers. And we had a very rich presentation first by Jeff Chelsky, talking about the use of knowledge at the World Bank and how public financial management and debt management evaluations have influenced the use of these products in advising countries and challenges that's presented for the World Bank. From Mr. Charanjit Singh, Additional Secretary, who's responsible for a massive program in Delhi. He talked about a program in strengthening self-help groups and supporting resilience at the village level. This program covers nearly 100 million households across India and is a very critical one. Very interesting insights in how evaluation conducted by 3IE helped to inform adjustment and dealing with crisis brought about by COVID during around 2020 and since then, when the evaluation was done. Presented some very, very, I think, valuable lessons in adaptation and real-time learning in how to use the self-help groups to address challenges, both directly through mobilizing women in these groups and empowering them, but also in cross-cutting ways that had not been anticipated. For example, in the health sector, with vaccinations that were necessary, and with education at the village level. So it was quite informative. We also heard from a representative of the Mongolian Evaluation Group Association about the challenges of bringing evaluation into a government system, and in which evaluation, even the word, is not well understood, and the culture of using evaluation is not present. They have drawn on a glossary from the OECD book on evaluation, translated that, and are looking at ways in which to motivate the use of evaluation in the country and to build that capacity for accountability and learning purposes. And finally, we heard about knowledge management practice at the Asian Development Bank and how that is going to prove challenging moving forward in thinking about the future of the institution and whether it emphasizes its growth as a knowledge institution or a more financial institution. In both, knowledge management is key, but it calls on different development of products and more demand-driven ways of bringing knowledge into the institution. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Maya Vijayaraghavan. I'm with the Independent Evaluation Department of the Asian Development Bank. We just concluded a very interesting session on generative AI and the power of generative AI in evaluations. So the main takeaways from this session were that generative AI is a powerful tool that has the potential to dramatically alter evaluations, but it comes with a number of risks and pitfalls. So we must use it with extreme caution.
Hello, I'm Enrique Pisaya. I'm Principal Professional from Independent Evaluation Office of the New Development Bank, and I have been moderating the panel Infrastructure for Inclusive and Sustainable Development, Experience of New Development Bank, the Global South, and other key development partners. The session was discussing how infrastructure can better serve population and how better serve underserved groups in the countries. We discussed the importance of giving them ownership, giving them their space, giving their specific knowledge, and understand from their specific knowledge when implementing projects and when evaluating this kind of projects. We had specialists from DBSA, the Development Bank of Southern Africa. We had specialists from EBRD, the Bank of Reconstruction for Europe. We had specialists from the Ministry of the Planning of India, and also from IFAD. The discussion was really fruitful, and we really like to thank Asian Development Bank and Asia Pacific Financial Development Institute for this opportunity and for organizing this amazing week.
My name is Megan Kennedy Schwan. I head the OECD's DAC Network on Development Evaluation. Our session was called One Size Does Not Fit All. It was about how evaluation norms and standards internationally are adapted and adjusted and taken up in countries around the world, but focusing on the Asia-Pacific region. We heard examples from different countries, from Mongolia to Western Asia, with the Islamic Development Bank, the APEA Regional Association, and also from China. I think the one thing that really stuck with me was the fact that standards are really useful in providing a common language so that we can generate evidence, for example, around the sustainability of infrastructure projects. And at the same time, we have to focus on our goal as evaluators, which is to ask meaningful questions and not use standards as a way that's imposing or not adding value.
So we just finished a session that we had called Communications Rhapsody. This was about effectively communicating evaluations. And with me and the other two panelists were Nilakshi Maan from 3IE and Jeff Chelsky from IEG World Bank. All three of us made presentations, and the focus was around some of the good practices of communicating evaluations, what works, what doesn't, and some examples on good practices. Some of the topics that emerged was that having a big budget is not a necessary prerequisite to effective communication. We spoke about how to build in communication very early on in the evaluation cycle, and we spoke about how, although very difficult to measure, communications go a long way in influencing evaluations.